The 445th Battalion, also known as the D445 Provincial Mobile Battalion of the Ba Ria Battalion, was a local force battalion of the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. The battalion operated in the Dong Nai River Basin and also the Bien Hoa, Phuoc and Long provinces. It recruited principally from Dat Do, Dien and Hoa Long. The battalion was formed on the 19th of May 1965. It consisted of 3 rifle companies and 1 weapons company with a total strength of approximately 350 men and was commanded by Nguyen Van Kim. The battalion fought initially against the 173rd Airborne Infantry Brigade between the 24th of May and the 4th of June 1966 during Operation Hardihood. American casualties during that operation were 23 killed and 160 wounded, and 48 Viet Cong soldiers were reported to have been killed. During the Battle of Long Tan on the 18th of August 1966, the battalion fought against Australian Army forces from D Company 6 Ra supported by New Zealand and US artillery. According to the D445 Battalion political officer, the unit provided guides for the units that mortared the task force at Nui Dat base on the 17th of August 1966. A Viet Cong medic, Chung, reported that 3 of the Viet Cong RCL detachment were killed in the Australian counter-battery fire and were buried nearby. During the battle, an 80-strong Vo Thi Sao Civil Labour Company commanded by Chin Phong, comprising mainly women and children, lent support by evacuating the casualties. Australian veterans and historians, in the main, claimed that at Long Tan D445 Battalion suffered heavy casualties, with captured personnel reportedly later stating that D445 Battalion's casualties had been 70 killed and 100 wounded, or approximately 50% of its strength. The total number of Vietnamese dead in the battle, according to Viet Cong and NVA histories, were 47 killed. Only 1 member of D445 was captured at Long Tan, and 2 members of 275 Regiment were captured who declared themselves to be members of Dien 45. As the cover story, during the retreat, Nguyen Duc Thu, the commander of D445's rearguard force, was seriously wounded by a bullet that passed through one earlobe and went out the other, and Tran Van Chen and the commander of the 1st Company were killed. Several D445 soldiers were awarded letters of appreciation for their actions in the battle at Long Tan, including Dao Van Trung, Tran Van Tran, Pham Van Duong. 1 Australian M113 armoured personnel carrier was hit by 2 rounds from a D445 recoiler rifle detachment, killing the driver and wounding the crew commander and several soldiers. However, Viet Cong casualty figures of Long Tan were always difficult to account for, as the battlefield was continuously bombarded by the New Zealand and US artillery during the fighting, and in the aftermath hundreds of Viet Cong fighters could never be identified. D445 Battalion and the other Viet Cong reinforcements that attacked the Australians numbered some 2,500 fighters. In 1968, a 2nd Local Force unit was formed in Phuoc known as D440 Battalion. The unit generally performed poorly against Australian and New Zealand forces, however, and was eventually disbanded in August 1970, with most of its personnel transferred to D445 Battalion. Until 1971, D445 Battalion would fight mainly with the Australian and New Zealand forces operating in Phuoc Tuy province from the base at Nui Dat. A major loss to the battalion was the discovery and destruction of the Mai Tao mountain base in Nui Mai Tao, including the battalion's field hospital and pharmacy in December 1969. When Australian troops began to withdraw in 1971, D445 Battalion was able to regain strength by taking advantage of the reducing strength of anti-communist forces. By mid-1971, the 1st Australian Task Force had been reduced to just 2 battalions and support arms, including 1 Australian battalion, 3 RAF, and a combined Australian and New Zealand battalion, 4 RAF-NZ. Australian and New Zealand combat forces were withdrawn in December 1971. In September 1979, the battalion was involved in operations against armed FULRO guerrillas in the Chua Chan Mountain, Lin Na River area of Shan Loc that were seeking independence for ethnic minorities in Vietnam and Cambodia. On the 23rd of February 2011, at a formal meeting to discuss arrangements for a memorial for D445 by surviving veterans and government officials, it was stated that during the war the battalion had wiped out more than 10,000 enemy soldiers, destroyed 120 military vehicles, shot down 20 aircraft, and seized more than 1,800 weapons of different types. More than 1,000 cadre and soldiers of the battalion had heroically sacrificed themselves